Not all pickled onions are the same. And on top of that, there's 2 stages within the pickling process that we seem to ignore. The recipe I'm about to show you is so good that my friend Rick Martinez traveled all the way to Tamazula, Jalisco, where I'm from, just to try my birria with these pickled onions. If you want to check out that full video, I'll leave a link in the description for you to check out. Now let's get the onion rolling. First things first, we got to pay attention in which way we're going to cut the onion, because depending on how you cut the onion, the texture is going to change. So to guide myself, I'm going to go with these lines here. You're going to hear me talk about these lines a lot during this video. So I use those lines as a guide to cut it in half. So the anatomy of the onion on both halves is identical. We're going to use those lines, okay? We're going to get rid of that dry layer of skin that the onion has. Now, the onion is kind of tricky because red onions, for whatever reason, seem to have a layer that's both fresh and dry. Before we could access that layer, we need to get rid of both sides here, or north and south, or the tips, both tips. It's hard to tell here, but this layer right here is both fresh and dry, but we need to get rid of it. The way to tell you did it correctly is that the onion's going to be even in color. There's not going to be a brighter reddish or pinkish, purplish, whatever the color is, than the other. It's just going to be uniformed. Again, we're going to use the lines as a guide so we can cut with the lines, not through them. Be very careful. Use your knuckles as a guide so you don't cut your fingers, and remember the claw method. Do as I say, not as I do. I don't use the claw method because I'm cool like that. AKA dumb guy. As you can see here, cutting with the line gives you a different texture, a different shape to the onion. Versus my buddy here on the right, cut the onion wrong. Didn't follow my instructions, and now you have that ugly, weird, textured onion. But Chivo, I don't have knife skills, so how do I get this perfect? Well, start practicing. This is a perfect opportunity to practice. And by practicing with onions, you're going to be left with about a sack full of onions, so your family's going to be eating pickled onions for the rest of the year. Now grab a container where you want the onions to have their final resting place. Now pack that container until you can't fit anymore. I know it's going to seem like a lot, but make sure that you can't fit any more onions. The reason you do that is because you're going to be left with a container with about a quarter to maybe at best halfway full of onions, and the rest is going to be liquid. You don't want that. The next step is the salting process, which I like to do in a sheet pan. I don't like to do bowls, but if you have bowls in your kitchen, great. Now there's no science to this. I'm just going to go ahead and spread the onions all over the sheet pan, and then I'm going to go ahead and add our dehydrated seawater. Now in the video with Rick Martinez, it doesn't show on video, but I use sea salt. You can use sea salt. You can use pretty much whatever salt you want, I guess. But I stick to kosher and sea salt. If you do sea salt, it's just going to take a little bit longer to pretty much dissolve than kosher salt. If you have a wife or a girlfriend or you're dating, please use gloves for this next step. I don't have an issue because she's always sending me to the couch. The idea here is that we massage the salt into the onions. Then the onions are going to begin to release some of that liquid. And we want them to release liquid because we want them to make room for flavor. Once they release the liquid, they're ready for flavor agent number 1. This is dry oregano from my garden. I'll show you how to dry oregano if you let me know down in the comments that you'd like to learn. Just putting it in between my hands, and I'm crushing it and letting it sprinkle all over the onions. And if you don't want to learn how to make dry oregano, I'm still going to make a video anyways. Again, I don't have a measurement. I like to cook by feel, and I want you to learn the same way. Now we're going to go ahead and transfer these back into that container, and it's going to seem like they're not going to fit because they're all spread out and there's going to be like air gaps in there, but trust me, they're all going to fit back in there. Also, I forgot to mention, as you can see, the onions are pretty uniform in thickness or thinness, if you like, but that helps it pickle quicker. If they're a little thicker, it'll take longer. Flavoring agent number 2, and also pickling agent. Remember when I said that we wanted the onions to release liquid so it can make room for flavor? This is also going to pickle the onion from the inside because it's going to penetrate the onion and the cell walls, aka osmosis. This is going to seem like a lot of lime, but we're only filling up to halfway. Now, Chivo, I don't have limes. Okay, that's fine. Use apple cider vinegar or use regular vinegar. Even though we filled halfway, once the onions release all of their moisture, they're going to be swimming in the mixture of their own moisture and acid. The key here is to use acid so we can acidulate the onions. Not the kind that your neighbor uses when he's tripping out in the garage. Now make sure you mix well. Here's where I talk about the 2 stages that we happen to ignore when we do pickled onions. The first stage takes place within 1 to 2 hours. At this stage, they're about halfway pickled, but they still have some of that oniony quality to them. And this is when they have the most crunch, and with the thinness, they pickled quickly. Delicious. These are great for charred grilled meats because they have that nice sharpness. And the second stage of the pickled onions are the pickled onions we all know. Bright and acidic, use at your discretion.